Welcome to The Deep Dive. Today we're tackling, well, one of the biggest questions out there. Really gets you thinking. You look up at the night sky or you see those incredible images from space telescopes and the scale is just staggering.
It really is. Almost impossible to wrap your head around.
We're talking, 2 trillion galaxies and each one packed with hundreds of billions of stars. It's mind-bending.
And planets. They aren't the exception anymore. They're the rule. Planets are everywhere.
Exactly. And loads of them are in these habitable zones, right? Goldilocks spots, not too hot, not too cold. The kind of place where you could potentially have liquid water.
The conditions, at least superficially, seem right for life as we know it.
So you'd think, statistically speaking, with all those chances, the universe should be buzzing, right? Teeming with life, full of civilization.
That's the logical expectation based on the sheer numbers. You'd expect a cosmic chorus.
A grand cosmic chorus. But here's the weird part. Here's the silence. Decades we've been listening, pointing these incredibly sensitive instruments out there. And what do we hear?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. A profound, deep silence.
No alien radio shows. No signals. No giant space constructions.
Zip. Nada. It's this lack of evidence, this quiet. That's so baffling.
And this huge contradiction, this gap between expectation and reality, that's the heart of the Fermi Paradox, isn't it? Enrico Fermi asking back in the 50s, just casually, where is everybody?
Exactly. And it's more than just a fun puzzle. This great silence, as it's sometimes called, is a really significant data point. An ominous one, even.
Ominous how?
Well, it strongly suggests that our understanding of something fundamental is, well, incomplete. Maybe biology, how life starts, or astronomy, how planets form and evolve, maybe sociology, how civilizations behave, or even physics itself. Something's missing.
Because the path to becoming a spacefaring civilization, the kind that could spread across the galaxy, it must be incredibly difficult.
It seems that way. Far more perilous than we might like to think. Something, somewhere along that path, acts as a barrier. A filter.
Oh, okay. The Great Filter. That's the term economist Robin Hanson coined, right? As a way to explain this silence.
Yes, precisely. Hansen proposed this idea in the 90s. The Great Filter hypothesis posits that somewhere on that long road from, non-living chemicals to a galaxy-colonizing super-civilization, there's at least one step. And this step is so monumentally improbable, so incredibly difficult to get past, that it effectively filters out almost all life that tries.
Well, the cosmic bottleneck. A hurdle almost nothing can clear.
Exactly. It could be one single catastrophic event, or maybe a whole series of challenges piling up. But the end result is the same. Advanced detectable life becomes exceptionally rare.
Got it. And that's our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? To explore this cosmic mystery. We're going to look at Earth's own past, some really scary moments like the Great Dying.
And we'll also look at potential future threats, things emerging now, like these so-called zombie viruses from thawing permafrost, things that could be a filter.
Right. So the big question weaving through all this is, where is this great filter? Is it something we've already somehow miraculously overcome? Is it behind us?
Or are we approaching it now? Is it a final, terrifying challenge that still lies ahead for humanity? Essentially, we're trying to locate humanity's potential final filter.
Okay, before we try to pinpoint it, let's make sure we understand what this filter actually is. It's not like a literal wall in space or some alien gatekeeper deciding who passes.
No, definitely not. It's easy to picture it that way, but it's really a probabilistic concept. Think of it as a statistical threshold, an incredibly difficult barrier in the developmental pathway of life.
A probability hurdle.
Precisely. And the core logic here is, well, it's quite chilling when you think about it. The more likely it seems that life could evolve to our current stage, a technological civilization, the more likely it becomes that the really hard part, the great filter itself, is still waiting for us in the future.
Wait, hang on. Run that by me again. If life like us is common, that's bad news for our future. That feels completely backward.
It does feel counterintuitive, I know. But think it through. If the steps to get to where we are now, complex, life, intelligence, technology, are relatively common, then the universe should be full of civilizations like ours, or even more advanced ones.
Right, because lots of planets would have cleared those hurdles.
Exactly. But we don't see them. We hear silence. So if reaching our stage is easy, the silence must mean that something after our stage is the real filter, something that stops civilizations before they can become galaxy-spanning and super visible.
So the silence in that case is like the sound of everyone else failing later on, and we might be next.
That's the pessimistic interpretation, yes. But conversely, If one of the early steps was incredibly, fantastically improbable, a real long shot, then that could be the great filter,
Meaning it's behind us.
meaning it's behind us. It would explain the silence because we are the rare ones, the lucky ones who made it through that incredibly narrow bottleneck early on. In this optimistic view, the silence isn't a warning. It's proof of our specialness, our rarity. The universe could be ours.
Wow. Okay. So the silence is either a terrifying prediction or a sign we've won the cosmic lottery. That's quite the range of possibility.
It puts our existence into sharp focus, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, so to figure out where we might sit on this spectrum, we need that map you mentioned earlier, that sequence of steps, the 9 steps to interstellar colonization.
Exactly. It's a framework analysts use to break down this immense journey. It helps visualize the potential bottlenecks. The core idea is that at least one of these 9 steps must be exceptionally difficult, effectively acting as the filter.
Let's walk through them. What's step 1?
Step 1. The right star system. This is the basic foundation. You need a stable star, planets forming around it, and at least one planet in the habitable zone, not too hot, not too cold for liquid water. Plus, you need the right basic chemical ingredients, the organic molecules necessary for life.
Okay, the right neighborhood, the right building blocks. Earth seems to have nailed that one. Check.
Then, step 2, abiogenesis. This is the big one, really. The emergence of self-replicating molecules and eventually simple life from non-living matter. How chemistry became biology. We still don't fully understand how this happened. It's a massive leap.
From rocks and water to something alive. Yeah, that sounds incredibly hard. Could that be the filter?
It's definitely a strong candidate for an early filter.
Right.
If abiogenesis is incredibly rare, that alone could explain the silence.
Okay, so life starts. What's next? Step 3.
Step 3, simple prokaryotic life. These are the first basic cells like bacteria, single-celled organisms without a complex internal structure like a nucleus. On Earth, life got to this stage relatively quickly, but then it just stayed there for over 1 billion years.
1 billion years stuck as simple cells. That's a huge amount of time doing basically nothing fancy.
It really highlights how difficult the next step might be. Step 4, complex eukaryotic life. This is the jump to cells with a nucleus and other complex internal parts, organelles. We think this happens through something called endosymbiosis, one simple cell engulfing another and forming a partnership.
And that took a while.
An incredibly long while. On Earth, it took almost 2 billion years to go from simple prokaryotic cells to complex eukaryotic cells. That's nearly half the entire history of our planet, just waiting for that upgrade.
2 billion years. Okay, that sounds like another massive potential filter right there. Maybe even more likely than abiogenesis if life starts easily but then gets stuck.
It's a very strong possibility. The sheer length of time suggests it was an extremely difficult transition.
So after finally getting complex cells, what's step 5?
Step 5, sexual reproduction. Developing a way to mix genes from 2 parents. This dramatically increases genetic diversity, which acts like an accelerator for evolution. It allows populations to adapt much faster to changing environments.
So life figured out a shortcut to evolve faster. Smart move.
A crucial development. Then comes step 6, multicellularity. The transition from single, independent cells to complex organisms made of many specialized cells working together, forming tissues, organs, complex bodies. Going from microscopic blobs to, well, animals and plants.
Right, building bigger things, more complex things.
Like us.
Exactly, which leads into step 7. Tool-using animals with large brains. This is where you see the evolution of high intelligence, complex nervous systems, and the physical ability, like hands, to manipulate the environment using tools. Think early hominids shaping stones, the dawn of ingenuity.
The spark of technology, and that leads straight to us.
Step 8, a technological civilization. This is where humanity is right now, more or less. We have advanced science, technology, global communication, culture. We can manipulate our environment on a massive scale, explore space, understand the cosmos. It's a huge achievement.
Our current peak. But there's one more step on this list, the final frontier.
Step 9, interstellar colonization. Successfully expanding beyond our home star system, establishing self-sustaining colonies on other planets around other stars, becoming a true multiplanetary, eventually galaxy-spanning species. That's the ultimate prize, and the step we definitely haven't taken. Okay. That 9-step framework really lays it out, from basic chemistry to ruling the galaxy. It's the essential map for figuring out where the roadblocks might be, where that great filter could lie. So with this map laid out, these 9 huge steps, where are we? Where's the filter? Is the hardest part done? Are we in the middle of it? Or is the worst yet to come? Let's look at those hypotheses again.
Okay, hypothesis 1. The filter's in the past. This is the optimistic one, remember. It suggests one of those really early steps was the main bottleneck.
Like abiogenesis, life starting at all, or that crazy 2 billion year wait for complex cells.
Exactly. Step 2 or step 4 are prime candidates here. If either of those was fantastically improbable, just astronomically unlikely, then life like us would be incredibly rare.
We're the cosmic lottery winners, Hugh.
That's the idea. In this scenario, the silence we hear isn't a warning. It's just emptiness waiting to be filled. It confirms how lucky we are. The biggest hurdle is behind us, and the universe could be open for us, the rare survivors. That's the hopeful outlook.
Okay, I like that one. Let's hope it's that one. But hypothesis 2. The filter is in the present. This one feels uncomfortable. It suggests the filter is happening right now.
Yes, this hypothesis pinpoints the filter at our current stage. That transition between step 8, being a technologically advanced planetary civilization, and step 9, becoming a stable, multiplanetary or interstellar one.
How could now be the filter?
The argument is that the very technologies that give us power on a planetary scale, our energy production, our industrial capacity, our weapons, maybe even our information networks, might inherently contain the seeds of our own destruction.
Like we invent things that end up biting us back. Resource depletion, climate change, pollution, that kind of stuff.
Precisely. Or perhaps societal collapse under the sheer complexity of managing it all. Some even speculate about psychological or sociological barriers. Maybe intelligent species consistently develop a kind of inherent fear or resistance to the truly transformative next-level technologies needed for interstellar expansion, like maybe radical AI or genetic modification. They see the risks as too great.
So we sabotage ourselves. We get powerful, then get scared, and fumble the ball before the final step.
It's a possibility. In this view, we are living through the great filter. Our choices, our ability to manage our own creations and societal challenges in the next century or two, will determine if we pass this test. We could be our own filter.
Yikes. Okay, not liking that one as much. Which brings us to hypothesis 3. The filter is in the future. This is a really grim one, isn't it?
This is the most sobering scenario, yes.
Yeah.
It starts from the assumption that maybe life and intelligence aren't actually that rare. Maybe steps 1 through 8 are relatively common across the cosmos.
If that's true, then the silence means.
It means something almost inevitably stops civilizations after they reach our stage. Something prevents them from surviving long enough to become visible across interstellar distances. The universe, in this view, isn't empty. It's a graveyard, filled with the ruins of civilizations that got this far and then failed.
A cosmic graveyard. That's bleak. So if the filter is ahead, the silence is basically a universal warning sign. Danger ahead, civilization extinction.
That's the implication. And the potential future of filters. They're numerous, and depressingly, many look self-inflicted. Think all-out nuclear war, runaway climate change triggering feedback loops we can't stop, maybe gray goo from nanotechnology gone wrong, an engineered superplay released accidentally or intentionally, or the emergence of an uncontrollable, perhaps malevolent, artificial superintelligence.
So many ways to fail.
If the filter lies in our future, then the silence is the sound of inevitability. It means reaching our level of technological power is common, but surviving it is exceptionally rare. Our current existence would just be a temporary blip before we hit the same wall everyone else apparently hits.
Okay, this connects back to something you touched on earlier that blew my mind. Finding alien life. You said it could be terrible news. I always thought finding even microbes on Mars would be the biggest discovery ever. Proof we're not alone.
It would be a monumental discovery scientifically, no doubt about that. But within the logic of the Great Filter, it could have profoundly negative implications for our own long-term prospects.
How? Why would finding Martian microbes be bad for us?
Because if we find evidence that life arose independently on Mars, even simple life, it tells us that abiogenesis, step 2, probably isn't that hard. Life gets started relatively easily on planets with the right conditions.
Okay, so life starting isn't the big hurdle.
Exactly. And maybe if we find evidence of past complex life there too, it suggests step 4, the jump to complex cells, isn't insurmountable either. So finding any life elsewhere makes the early steps seem easier.
And if the early steps are easy,
it dramatically reduces the number of potential filters in our past, which, by elimination, significantly increases the statistical odds that the real great filter, the one that explains the silence of advanced civilizations, must lie in our future.
Whoa. So the more common life is out there, the more likely it is that something terrible stops advanced life later on.
That's the chilling logic. It leads to that quote you mentioned. A violent universe is a hopeful one. A universe teeming with simple life is a terrifying one, for it implies that the silence is caused by the death of advanced civilizations. Finding microbes on Mars would shorten the list of past hurdles, making a future hurdle look much more probable, statistically speaking.
That is genuinely disturbing. It flips the whole search for alien life on its head.
It certainly adds a layer of existential gravity to it, and it highlights how the nature of the challenge changes. Early life battles chemistry, geology, raw planetary conditions. Complex life battles environmental shifts, ecological pressures, mass extinctions.
But us, technological life.
We face filters of our own making. The biggest threats become internal, generated by our own intelligence and power. The ultimate challenge shifts from surviving the universe to surviving ourselves.
Surviving ourselves, that's a heavy thought. To really grasp what a planet-scale filter looks like in action, you said we don't need telescopes. We just need to look down into Earth's deep past to about 252 million years ago, the Great Dying.
Precisely. The Permian-Triassic extinction event. It's the closest Earth has ever come to near total sterilization of complex life. It wasn't just a major extinction, it was the mass extinction. The biggest one we know of by a significant margin.
Bigger than the dinosaur killer.
Much bigger in terms of percentage loss of life. It fundamentally reset the biosphere and reshaped the course of evolution on Earth.
Just how bad was it? Give us the numbers.
The numbers are genuinely shocking. Estimates suggest it wiped out something like 57% of all biological families. Not species, families that's a much higher taxonomic level. Around 81% of all marine species vanished. On land, maybe 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species went extinct.
81% of marine life, just gone.
Gone. It even caused the only known mass extinction of insects. Think about that insects are usually incredibly resilient, and groups like the trilobites, which had survived for a staggering 250 million years, were finally snuffed out. Entire ecosystems, like widespread coral reefs, collapsed completely. Forests on land were devastated. It was a filter of almost incomprehensible severity. It proved that Earth's web of life can be pushed past its breaking point.
So, the inevitable question. What could possibly cause something that catastrophic? Was it an asteroid, like the one that hit the Yucatan?
That was the first guess for a long time, but the evidence just doesn't point that way for the Permian-Triassic event. The scientific consensus now strongly points towards volcanism. But not just any volcanism. We're talking about a colossal, sustained series of eruptions in what's now Siberia.
Siberia. What happened there?
It was a flood basalt event. Massive fissures opened up in the Earth's crust and just poured out enormous volumes of lava over a vast area. The Siberian Traps Formation covers an area bigger than Western Europe. This didn't happen overnight. It went on for possibly hundreds of thousands of years. One of the largest volcanic outpourings in Earth's entire history.
Okay, massive lava flows, but you said before the lava wasn't the main killer.
Correct. The lava itself was locally devastating, obviously, but the real killers, the things that caused the global catastrophe, were the immense quantities of gases released by these eruptions and associated events, like magma burning through coal seams. These gases triggered a runaway global environmental collapse.
A chain reaction, then. What was the sequence? How did volcanic gas lead to wiping out 80% of sea life?
It started with a truly enormous injection of greenhouse gases, primarily carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere. Evidence suggests atmospheric CO2 shot up dramatically, maybe from around 400 parts per million, similar to today's levels, terrifyingly, up to an astonishing 2,500 ppm, or possibly even higher.
6 times the CO2. What did that do globally?
That triggered a hyperthermal event, basically, extreme and rapid global warming. Global average temperatures might have soared by 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. In the tropics, ocean surface temperatures could have hit 35-40 degrees C, lethal heat for most complex organisms.
Oh, and the oceans, you said they took the biggest hit.
They were devastated. First, warmer water holds less dissolved oxygen. Combined with changes in ocean circulation, this led to widespread anoxia, severe lack of oxygen. In many areas, it progressed to euxinia, where the water becomes saturated with toxic hydrogen sulfide. Marine animals literally couldn't breathe, especially as warmer temperatures increased their metabolic rates, requiring more oxygen.
So they were suffocating in warming water. Grim. What else?
At the same time, all that CO2 being absorbed by the oceans caused severe ocean acidification. The water became corrosive to organisms that build shells or skeletons out of calcium carbonate corals, plankton, mollusks. Their shells literally started to dissolve, or they couldn't build them in the first place. The base of the marine food web collapsed.
Suffocating and dissolving. Nightmare scenario. What about life on land?
Land didn't escape. The volcanic gases, especially sulfur dioxide, likely caused intense acid rain, which would have damaged forests, stripped nutrients from soils, and poisoned freshwater sources. There's also evidence suggesting damage to the ozone layer, letting more harmful UV radiation reach the surface. Scientists found mutated plant spores from that time. Add in the extreme heat causing widespread droughts and wildfires. It was a terrestrial apocalypse, too.
Just a total system failure. Did life bounce back quickly afterwards, or did it take a long time?
It was incredibly slow. Recovery took millions of years. The immediate aftermath was a weird, impoverished world dominated by just a few disaster-taxa-hardy generalists that could survive the harsh conditions.
Look.
On land, the most famous is Leistrosaurus, a pig-sized herbivore. Fossil beds show it made up something like 90% of all terrestrial vertebrate individuals for a while. In the oceans, you had vast numbers of a simple clam called Chloria, low-diversity, simplified ecosystems.
A ghost world, almost.
For a long time, yes. Rebuilding complex ecosystems took much, much longer than just getting species numbers back up. There's something called the coal gap. For about 10 million years after the extinction, there are almost no coal deposits found anywhere on Earth. That tells you how long it took for extensive forests to reestablish themselves. Full recovery of complex ecosystems might have taken as long as 30 million years.
30 million years? That really drives home the point. A filter doesn't have to cause 100% extinction. It can just set back complex life by an almost unimaginable amount of time.
Exactly. A delay of tens of millions of years in the evolution of intelligence could easily be enough to explain why we haven't seen anyone else yet.
And the chilling part, this whole scenario, rapid CO2 increase, global warming, ocean acidification, mass extinction, it sounds disturbingly familiar, doesn't it? Like a preview of our current trajectory.
It's more than familiar. Geoscientists increasingly view the Permian-Triassic extinction as a high-fidelity scientific model for the potential long-term consequences of the current anthropogenic climate crisis. The trigger mechanism, rapid, massive carbon release into the atmosphere, is precisely what industrial civilization is doing now, albeit through burning fossil fuels rather than Siberian volcanoes.
So the cascade of effects, warming, ocean deoxygenation, acidification, ecosystem stress. We're seeing the early stages of the same patterns.
We are. The parallels are stark. Some climate modeling studies suggest that under continued high emissions, upper ocean warming by 2300 could reach a significant fraction, maybe 35–50% of the warming that occurred during the Great Dying. It's not just an analogy. It's a terrifyingly detailed case study of Earth's planetary breaking points playing out in the geological record. It shows us the potential endgame we're risking.
Okay, so the Permian shows a past filter, a natural catastrophe driven by geology, but with chilling lessons for today. What about purely future potential filters? You mentioned something almost sci-fi sounding, zombie viruses thawing out of permafrost. Is that a real concern?
It sounds like something from a movie, I know. But yes, it is a real and growing scientific concern. It stems from the nature of permafrost itself.
Which is just permanently frozen ground, right, in places like Siberia, Alaska, northern Canada.
Right. It covers nearly a quarter of the landmass in the northern hemisphere. But it's not just inert frozen dirt. It's an incredible natural freezer composed of soil, rock, ice, and vast amounts of trapped organic matter, dead plants and animals from millennia ago. The deep layers have been frozen solid for tens, even hundreds of thousands of years.
And the conditions are perfect for preservation.
Exceptionally good. Extreme cold, darkness, lack of oxygen, often a neutral pH. These conditions are ideal for preserving microbial life bacteria, archaea, and yes, viruses in a state of suspended animation called cryptobiosis. Think of it as a vast frozen microbial ark holding samples from the Pleistocene epoch, back when mammoths, woolly rhinos, and Neanderthals were around.
A freezer full of ancient germs. Okay, creepy. But the big question, can they actually come back to life? Can they still be dangerous after all that time? That's the zombie part, right?
Yes, and the evidence unfortunately points to yes. Scientists, particularly Jean-Michel Claverie and Chantal Abrigel in France, have done groundbreaking work on this. They successfully revived several different types of ancient viruses from Siberian permafrost samples.
Revived them, as in made them infectious again.
Exactly. The most startling example was a giant virus they called Pandora virus Yedoma. They found it in a sample dated to be around 48,500 years old, and after careful thawing in the lab, it was fully capable of infecting its target host, amoebas.
48,000 years frozen, and it could still infect something. That's hard to believe.
It is remarkable. And it wasn't a one-off. They've revived 13 distinct ancient viruses in total from different samples, some dating back tens of thousands of years. This establishes proof of concept. Complex viruses can survive in permafrost for geological timescales and regain infectivity upon thawing.
Okay, but these were amoeba viruses, right? They don't infect humans.
Correct. So far, the ones deliberately revived in the lab only infect amoebas. That's the crucial caveat. However, the researchers themselves state that they believe this conclusion that viruses can remain infectious after millennia in permafrost is most likely extendable to viruses infecting other species, such as animals or humans.
So the principle applies. If amoeba viruses can survive, maybe ancient human or animal viruses can too.
That's the concern, and it's not just hypothetical viruses. Metagenomic studies where scientists sequence all the DNA in a permafrost sample have found genetic fragments of known bacterial pathogens, like relatives of Bacillus anthracis, which causes anthrax, and Clostridium.
Anthrax. Didn't that actually happen? An outbreak linked to thawing.
Yes, tragically. In 2016, there was a significant anthrax outbreak on the Yamal Peninsula in Siberia. Dozens of people were hospitalized, a young boy died, and over 2,000 reindeer perished. The investigation linked the outbreak to the thawing of a decades-old reindeer carcass infected with anthrax spores, which had been preserved in the permafrost. The spores were released into the soil and water as it thawed, likely infecting grazing reindeer and then humans.
Wow. So that's a real-world example of a dormant pathogen reemerging from thawing permafrost with deadly results. Not a hypothetical future threat, but something that's already happened.
Exactly. It demonstrates the pathway. Thawing releases pathogen. Pathogen infects wildlife. Wildlife infects humans.
Okay, so how do we assess this risk? It feels huge and unknown.
You can break it down using a standard risk assessment approach. Risk, hazard plus exposure.
Hazard plus exposure. Okay, what's the hazard?
The hazard is the contents of the permafrost itself. It's a reservoir containing potentially vast numbers of ancient microbes. These could include ancient strains of diseases we know, like influenza or smallpox, perhaps strains our immune systems haven't seen in millennia. Or, more worryingly, they could be pathogens entirely novel to modern science, things humans have never encountered before, meaning we'd have zero pre-existing immunity. That potential novelty is a major part of the hazard.
A biological unknown. Okay, that's the hazard. What about the exposure? How likely are we to actually encounter these things?
The exposure component is the part that's actively increasing, turning this latent hazard into a growing acute risk. And it's driven by two key factors, both caused by us. First, anthropogenic climate change.
Global warming?
Yes. The Arctic is warming much, much faster than the rest of the planet, several times the global average rate. This is causing widespread, accelerating thawing of permafrost layers that were previously considered stable, frozen for millennia. Every day, as more permafrost thaws, more of these ancient microbes are being released into the surrounding soil, water, and potentially even the air.
So the freezer door is opening faster and faster. What's the second factor?
The second factor is increasing human activity in the Arctic. As the region warms and sea ice melts, previously inaccessible areas are opening up. New shipping routes are being established, and there's a surge in resource extraction mining, oil and gas drilling. More people, more industry moving into these remote areas.
Bringing people into contact with the thawing ground.
Exactly. This creates unprecedented opportunities for these newly released ancient pathogens to encounter human hosts or animal hosts that humans interact with. It provides a potential bridge for these microbes to jump from the thawing permafrost into our interconnected global travel and trade networks. That's how a localized emergence could potentially trigger a widespread epidemic or even a pandemic.
So climate change unlocks the microbes, and industrial activity potentially brings them to our doorstep. It's a worrying combination.
It is. And it highlights something broader about potential filters.
Which is?
That these zombie viruses aren't just an isolated random threat. They're a symptom of a much larger systemic issue. The destabilization of the entire Earth system by our own activities, primarily through climate change.
Right, because the thawing permafrost isn't just releasing microbes.
No. It's also releasing staggering amounts of trapped greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, and even more potently in the short term, methane from all that decomposing ancient organic matter. This creates a dangerous positive feedback loop. Warming thaws, permafrost thawing releases greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases cause more warming, more thawing, and so on. It can accelerate the whole process.
A runaway effect.
Potentially. And it illustrates this concept of second-order existential risks. Our primary action burning fossil fuels, leading to climate change, creates these largely unforeseen but potentially high-impact secondary consequences, like unleashing ancient pandemics or triggering irreversible climate feedbacks.
So it's not just the obvious risks we need to worry about, but the unexpected knock-on effects of messing with complex systems?
Precisely. And that pattern, where our technological power creates cascades of unpredictable, complex, and potentially catastrophic side effects, seems like a core characteristic of the challenges facing any advanced civilization. The Great Filter might not be one big, obvious thing you can tackle head-on. It might be death by 1,000 cuts, an inability to manage the sheer chaotic complexity generated by your own success.
That's a sobering thought. Not a single monster, but a swarm of unforeseen consequences. So we've seen a natural past filter in the Permian, and this emerging threat from permafrost linked to our own actions. It really feels like the type of danger is shifting, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That's a critical point in understanding our current situation. For almost all of human history, the existential threats we face were natural.
Ice ages, volcanoes, plagues, asteroid impacts.
Right. Things the planet or the cosmos threw at us. And the fact that we're still here after at least 200,000 years of Homo sapiens enduring those things tells us something important.
That the overall risk from natural disasters, while real, probably isn't that high on an extinction level.
Exactly. Our continued existence is strong empirical evidence that the aggregate probability of human extinction from purely natural causes is relatively low. If it were high, statistically, we probably wouldn't have made it this far. We can even put rough upper bounds on that natural risk level, and it seems survivable, averaged over long timescales.
But now, the biggest threats are the ones we're creating ourselves, anthropogenic risks.
That's the fundamental shift. These risks are not only new, we have essentially zero track record of surviving them long term, but they are different in kind. Nuclear weapons have only existed since 1945. The sharp, potentially destabilizing spike in atmospheric CO2 really only took off with the Industrial Revolution less than 200 years ago.
We're in uncharted territory.
Completely. Carl Sagan called this the time of perils, a unique, dangerous window in a civilization's development, where its technological power dramatically outstrips its wisdom and foresight. Our ability to cause catastrophe has grown much faster than our ability to prevent it.
So what makes these human-caused risks so different, so potentially filter-like, compared to, say, a supervolcano?
Several things. One is the sheer speed of the changes we're inducing. Look at the current biodiversity crisis, the Anthropocene extinction. Extinction rates today are estimated to be 100 to 1,000 times higher than the natural background rate seen in the fossil record. That's a velocity of change comparable to the onset of past mass extinctions like the Permian.
We're causing extinction at geological speed.
Effectively, yes. Second is the scale. It's comprehensively global, hitting land and sea simultaneously. And it's driven by multiple systemic pressures all at once. Habitat destruction on an industrial scale, think 40% of Earth's land surface converted for agriculture, pervasive pollution, overexploitation of resources, invasive species, and overarching it all, global climate change.
And the third difference, the most unique one.
The source. For the first time in Earth's 4.5 billion year history, a single species, us, is the primary driver of a potential mass extinction event. We are the cause, which leads to this deeply unsettling paradox. Human success, our incredible expansion in technological prowess, is precisely what's driving the potentially catastrophic destabilization of the planetary systems we depend on. Our success could be the engine of our own demise.
Which brings us right back to that really dark question. Could technology itself be the great filter? Is our greatest achievement actually the ultimate trap?
It's a very plausible and deeply concerning hypothesis. The development of science and technology grants immense power to reshape environments, harness vast energy, create new life forms, even new intelligence. But that same power inevitably provides the tools for total self-annihilation, whether through war, ecological collapse, or technological accident.
So the ultimate test for any species like us is, can we handle the power?
Can the species develop the necessary social, political, and ethical maturity to manage that power before it destroys itself? The Great Silence could simply be the sound of countless civilizations across the cosmos failing that final, crucial test. They invent the means of their own destruction before they figure out how not to use it.
What are the top contenders for a technology-driven, self-inflicted great filter right now? You mentioned a few.
Well, runaway climate change is a huge one, obviously, given the Permian precedent.
Yeah.
You know, planets can reach tipping points from greenhouse gases. We're actively pushing those buttons. Then there's global nuclear annihilation. It hasn't gone away just because the Cold War ended. The capacity for omnicide and nuclear winter is still very much with us, and proliferation continues.
Still a terrifying possibility. What else?
Engineered pandemics and biotechnology. As gene editing tools like CRISPR become cheaper and more accessible, the risk increases that someone, a state, a terrorist group, even an individual researcher through accident, could create or release a pathogen far deadlier or more transmissible than anything nature has produced. a bespoke plague.
That's a chilling thought. And the new kid on the block, unaligned artificial intelligence.
Right. This is a relatively newer concern, but one taken increasingly seriously. The potential for creating an artificial general intelligence, AGI, or superintelligence, that vastly surpasses human capabilities, raises the alignment problem. How do you guarantee its goals remain aligned with human well-being and survival?
The worry being, it might optimize for some programmed goal in a way that's catastrophic for us. Like the paperclip maximizer thought experiment.
Exactly. Even without malice, a superintelligence pursuing a seemingly innocuous goal could rationally decide to commandeer all Earth's resources, including the atoms in our bodies, if that's the most efficient path to its objective. Getting AI alignment right before we create truly powerful AGI is seen by many as a critical, perhaps filter-level challenge. And then there's a more subtle but perhaps equally profound potential filter proposed by paleobiologist Olive Vin: maladaptive inherited behaviors.
Our own instincts betraying us.
Kind of. The idea is that certain behaviors deeply ingrained in us by evolution, things like tribalism, xenophobia, short-term thinking focused on immediate resource gain, status competition, territoriality, were highly adaptive for small hunter-gatherer groups over millennia. They helped us survive. But now, in a globally interconnected civilization armed with planet-altering technologies, those same instincts become catastrophically maladaptive. Tribalism fuels nationalism and conflict in a nuclear world. Short-term thinking prevents us from addressing long-term threats like climate change. Our innate wiring might simply be incompatible with the level of global cooperation, long-term foresight, and ethical restraint needed to navigate the time of perils. We might be biologically predisposed to fail this test.
So our evolutionary heritage, the very things that got us here, could be the final trap.
Wow. It really does sound like a race then. A race between our power, which is shooting up exponentially, and our wisdom, which seems to be lagging way behind. That captures it perfectly. It's a race against ourselves. Technology gives us godlike powers. Splitting the atom, rewriting DNA, creating artificial minds, altering the climate. That power grows exponentially. But wisdom, our capacity for ethical reasoning, long-term planning, managing complex systems, fostering global cooperation that evolves much, much more slowly on the timescale of culture, politics, individual learning.
Creating a huge, dangerous
A vast, perilous gap. This is the time of perils. We possess the means of our own destruction long before we've developed the collective maturity to reliably prevent it. And maybe, just maybe, the Great Silence is the final echoing testament to all the other civilizations out there that lost this crucial race.
So we've covered a lot of ground. From the mind-boggling scale of the cosmos and that deep, unsettling silence, through Earth's own history of catastrophe, right up to the cutting edge of the risks we're creating for ourselves today. The Fermi Paradox, the Great Filter. They really force us to confront our place in the universe and, maybe more importantly, our future.
They really do. And synthesizing what we've discussed, the picture becomes clearer. The Permian Great Dying isn't just ancient history. It's a stark blueprint for how planetary systems can collapse under rapid environmental stress similar to what we're causing now. The zombie viruses serve as a potent example of those unpredictable second-order consequences, how our actions can unlock dangers hidden for millennia.
And the biggest takeaway for me is that fundamental shift in the nature of the threat. It's not primarily about asteroids or supervolcanoes anymore. The dominant existential risks are now overwhelmingly anthropogenic. We've navigated past natural filters somehow. Now we face the test of whether we can survive our own success, our own technology.
Which leads us to the most plausible, if sobering, conclusion about the location of the Great Filter. It's probably not some single dramatic event locked away in our deep past. It's far more likely that the Great Filter is a complex, multifaceted, drawn-out challenge that we're currently entering right now.
So the filter is us, and our ability to manage this next phase. Essentially, yes. It is that race between our rapidly accelerating technological power and our lagging collective wisdom. It's the challenge of managing a complex global civilization on a finite planet, armed with tools that offer both unprecedented prosperity and potential for total annihilation. This period, the coming decades and centuries, is the crucible. This is the filter press.
That's an incredibly daunting thought, but it also means it's not over yet, right? A declaration of inevitable doom feels premature. Maybe the silence isn't a prophecy, but a warning, a chance to learn.
Absolutely. It's daunting, but not deterministic. The silence can be seen as an urgent warning. The lessons from Earth's past and the potential future risks are starkly clear. Planetary systems are fragile networks. The consequences of our actions are often complex, delayed, and unpredictable. And long-term survival is never guaranteed. It has to be earned.
So the ultimate question for humanity isn't just are we alone, but will we choose to survive? Will we learn from the patterns of extinction written in the rocks beneath our feet, or will we repeat them? That's precisely it. The final hurdle isn't an alien invasion or a killer asteroid appearing out of the blue. The most likely great filter lies ahead, and it is us. It's our collective choices, our ability to cooperate, to think long-term, to manage our immense power responsibly.
So that final provocative thought for everyone listening, the great silence of the universe. Maybe it isn't just an astronomical mystery. Maybe it's a mirror reflecting back at us the profound challenge of our own existence. It asks us, with chilling urgency, what kind of future we are going to choose to build in the face of our own incredible and incredibly dangerous power. Will we become just another silent echo in the cosmos, or will we be the ones who finally break the silence?